Just you and I. Hello, awoo. Okay, once again, it's just I did not do this in the show previously, but like I'm going to be like tweeting out and sharing around the links to all the places, especially since like I got to do that like 15 minutes like earlier beforehand. Awoo, Tabby, how you doing? I mean, it was that. Of course, now I mean, there's nothing interesting to look at when there's a meteor white guy. I mean, Isaiah, you would agree that the meteor white guy is not that interesting to look at, right, Isaiah? And Joy Lame Beer is joining us too.
I guess that depends.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look at. Yes. Yeah, so we heard Isaiah. Joey, can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can.
Right on.
You guys like my
is that a tsundere kind of John the Silent? What? The audience, can you hear John Brockman? Can you hear us? This is important because hello, David. Yes. I mean, this is a common thing on what. If you recently had a Windows update, that again always fucks it up.
There we go. Now they can hear me. And
all right.
So now on screen, you should be able to see a mediocre white guy getting punched.
Oh, but he was more than just mediocre white guy. But he
was a mediocre white Nazi. Yeah.
We did all enjoy him getting punched, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, some centrists didn't, though. So the white moderates that MLK all warned us about. Some of us didn't listen, though.
Where is that?
Some.
I wonder. You probably can't hear it. Oh dear. Okay, I found. There it was. Just one of the YouTube tabs I had open that for some reason started playing. All right.
I can't hear. Can you still not hear John Brockman? Or no, is that what's from like a?
You should be able to hear me now. It's on the correct microphone.
All right, because we should get like the technical difficulties over with this. So
first up, we have patrons to thank. I'm remembering this time. So we have Joe, Marty, Tim, Ely, Von Reck, and the Fuckboys. Let's see. Oh, and Flora.
Oh yes, yeah. Thank you all for patience. You give us money for this show, which is really just like us hanging out with friends and having interesting conversations and broadcasting them.
And occasionally shit talking Star Wars and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, they're all just okay. They're all just okay. Hey, it's like Star Wars is just like samurai movies ripped off.
Yeah, that's true.
So I just heard one of the Capitol rioters is getting off, kind of.
They are all typically getting sentences, but they are usually getting reduced sentences if they share information about people higher up in their various Telegram groups.
let me show you guys like a article in the chat if I can.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Let's see. Where can I share stuff in the chat?
On the phone app, navigating the phone app can be difficult. I think you have to I have to remember. There we go. Okay. So I'll copy.
It's not an article. That's an Instagram.
Okay. I'm not.
That's the last thing that was like you copied in your a copy thing.
Way to be a stereotype, sharing a picture of a pretty girl.
At least it was a pretty girl that Isaiah shared.
And she's wearing clothes, so that's good.
Well, it's on Instagram, so okay. It's on Instagram, so yes. Just because she cannot be wearing clothes, but she has.
Oh my god! I recognize that street.
Really?
Yeah, that's Ithaca. That's where Cornell is. That's where I went to college.
That makes sense. Oh, okay, yeah. One of those places also that are on hills. I mean, yeah, the Seattle's on hills. I still need to share around the things, as it were. Hey, Joe P. Hey, Joe McClory. Hey, David. Hey, Mithril. How everyone's doing? Hey, Radical Bacon. Hey, so Isaiah, Joey, how have you been?
I've been good. I actually got some good news. I'm going to be working on. I'm gonna be working at a campaign.
What kind of
political?
Yes, and I just shared the NPR link, by the way. But yeah, I'm gonna be working for city agricultural commissioner Nikki Freed, who's going to be running to unseat DeSantis.
Oh, okay.
Right on.
Be our first female governor if she wins.
Nice.
I shared that link into the live chat.
Yes, did I? Did I share that?
No, you shared it. You shared it in our Zoom chats, which is fine because I'm able to like share that into the YouTube live chat, as it were.
Riley Williams was accused of stealing House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's laptop during the January 6th insurrection. She looks just an awful lot like an evil version of Daria, or that chick from Parks and Rec.
The Doria look, yeah, I can see that. It's easy, brown hair and like glasses, but then also the kind of like rusty bitch face kind of like attitude, or as were. And don't worry, Taffy. Yeah,
I think we know that. I think we know why she's getting lighter sentences. Can you guys guess why she's getting lighter sentences?
It's probably because of the glasses sitting on top of a white girl's face.
The white girl behind it too. I mean, that would be like my guess, as it were.
This is we'll see. I have people who would tell me that sometimes I'm too like I don't talk without a filter. But I feel like in our society, when people like that can be accused of like an extreme crime, but then someone else could be like shot 60 times for having quote unquote a gun, how do you not approach and my question is, how do you approach injustice when there's like such grievous injustice like that out there?
Well, let me answer your question with a picture, which you won't be able to see in 30 seconds.
Okay.
It's now currently the picture that's in the bottom right-hand corner of the stream, which you probably can't see because you're on Zoom instead of on the stream. It's a chick holding a Molotov, wearing a shirt to support the patriarchy.
Yes, a freedom potion.
And by the way, I do have a crush on Daria, by the way.
I like Daria. Surprisingly, I like Daria's
She's
personality.
basically the girl of the 90s, so yeah.
Yes, exactly. Finally sharing around the...
it's either her or Patty from Doug.
Mm-hmm.
What about Elisa Silverstone?
Oh, yeah, she was also the girl of the 90s.
Yes! Oh, yes! Absolutely. Clueless.
And you're not at home, so we can't see your Clueless poster.
Yes.
You can see my Hey Arnold shirt, but you can't see my Clueless poster.
Yeah, I never saw the show Hey Arnold, but so I have no opinion either way on the show.
But see, well, this is also one of the reasons why I'm like doing this camp. Why I'm like, because if I met Freed, I would tell her, it's like, you have a lot of things to go up against DeSantis, against a lot of stuff, and I feel like I don't know why Democrats like to handle Republicans with tweezers. I don't get it.
Because they agree with the Republicans on most things.
I mean, there's another interesting point to look at too. Why is it that the conservative media, the fascist media, I should say, Fox News, why do those kind of like fascist far right pundits like go after Biden for trying to steal our burgers and not go after Biden for his like foreign policy? They don't care about his foreign policy. The liberal media also kind of like reports on the on the news of the fascist media claiming that like Biden is going to steal our burgers or take our cows, because the liberal media is also either don't want to cover the foreign policy, as it were, but also are not critical of Biden's foreign policy either. And like that's foreign policy and economics is kind of like one of those areas that like more or less the Republicans and the conservatives of the Democrats agree a lot. I mean, it's like in 2000, right before like the second September 11th, but remember that was the second one. The one of the skits of an SNL about the debate between Al Gore and George W. Bush, it was them agreeing on almost everything, and even the moderator in like the skit, which is like agree. So it's like one of you has either gotten like some really good drugs, the medication, or a lot of like coaching, as it were. So since this is a boring debate anyway, I'm just going to watch the whole season baseball game that's happening right now. It's because in 2000s that was it. It was like I don't know what was the major difference between like George W. Bush and like Al Gore, other than like some social issues. Oh no, yeah, who was the?
I mean, Gore was focused more on environmental stuff, and he was a fairly progressive liberal, and Bush was a reactionary, quote unquote, conservative. So I mean, there were significant differences between them. It's just that that Gore was also a neoliberal, and he was trying to appear tough, so he was a bit hawkish. So they agreed a lot more on imperialism and the economy.
Did you guys see my new hat that I got for my costume?
I did not see it.
That's probably on.
Oh wait, is that the Facebook story you have up?
Yes.
Okay, then yes, I did see it.
New hat.
It's probably on your Instagram too, so I'm going to try to quickly find your Instagram too.
You
Coach.
are a Titanic captain.
Is your Titanic captain costume almost done?
It's getting there. I still got like a lot of things to do. What I'm going to do is like I'm going to make some YouTube videos, because I'm going to make another YouTube channel about my builds and my cosplays and stuff. At least I want to. And I'm going to detail how I made the uniforms.
Nice. I copy the link into the Zoom chat for like a Tavi to see, and I will post that link also into the YouTube live chat for like all to see.
Nice.
As a person with many fine hats, I spent over $500 for my R2D2 Bullard, in fact, so I won't judge you on how much you spent on any of your costumes whatsoever.
That hat was like $68. That's including shipping too, because I was getting it from the UK.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm getting two more. I'm getting the all black one next Friday, because I just work like some doubles here at my job. And then I'm gonna get the Master of Arms one like maybe next year. So I'm gonna have like 3 hats in total for like 3 different costumes. Eventually, once I get this car in October, we'll see where my money is at. But
$1.69. So, Joy of the Fire, Lame Deer. It's been a spell. So, like, how you been?
Oh, I'm hanging in there.
Is it easier now that there are no Christian missionaries?
It's far easier.
yeah.
Chat, Christian missionaries have now been banned from the Catalans.
Yep. I'll just share this like a brief. This was like weeks ago, but I've been meaning to want to mention this, but I'll share this like quick Twitter post from like Lakota Man in like last July. Yep, the like Ogara. I'm sorry for mispronouncing that. The Lakota Nation has officially banned religious missionaries from the reservations. I love it how there's like one jackass responding, and this is demonic. Also, Holy Church has like divine mandate to preach to the gospel like anywhere and everywhere. He got ratioed. Well, okay, only 1 heart and 1 retweet, but 11 comments. So 11 replies, and again, it's just like, what kind of person is this? Is this a troll? No, that seems like a real person. They generally believe in that stuff because I clicked on their link sharing clips of sermons from like St. Thomas or something like that. So
you have a divine mandate. Well, we have a home. Fuck off.
Uh, and that's also interesting because, like, okay, it seemed to like a correlation, I guess, but like it seemed to happen around the same time that the Pope was doing his like "We're Sorry" tour of like going to the various like First Nation like places and to each one individually or to as a group to saying sorry for the Catholic run like residential schools. Which
Are you sorry enough that you're going to give us money? Oh, no. Fuck off.
pretty much
Gonna kick down some of that good land that you've been hanging on to?
Yeah.
say something about the Discovery Doctrine where you send that? Oh, you're not going to do that? Of course not. Well, the USA government's also not going to do that either, too. So
Feel really bad about the genocide? Oh, that must suck for you.
Yeah.
But hey, the Lakota people don't have to hear about how the Catholics and the Christians are so sorry or hear anything about like Jesus or anything like that because they don't have to, they don't want to. Just like take it somewhere else.
Yeah, at least for the moment.
Yeah. Oh no, I didn't want to like share that. Hold on, sorry. Distracted. And so Tavi, how you been?
I've been all right, hanging in there. It is monsoon season here in Arizona. So there's been storms lately. Like every single night, we lost power and internet for a while, and I'm somebody with chronic pain that the chronic pain reacts to storms, and I am hanging in there.
Oh,
I remember monsoon season, but not with fondness.
While here in the Pacific Northwest, we get like not that much rain, but it spreads out over 154 like rainy days out of the year. You get it in like a week or two in Arizona.
Right now.
In Florida, we're still waiting for our first hurricane.
Oh, so yeah. How typical is like hurricane season on the East Coast, as it were? Like when does it usually start?
It starts. It's every
supposed
year.
to start in September.
And it's from June 1st to November 30th. But I think they're attempting to start it early because the storms are starting earlier. But we haven't had any storms recently. Blame Hart
on the outside of the window, Sasha.
Do you mean, by start earlier, do you mean like the Meteorological Society or some other group is trying to change the official listing of this is what we call hurricane season?
Right.
Because the hurricanes are fed by, warm, damp air rising off the ocean, and as the Earth heats up, that happens earlier and earlier and lasts longer and longer.
Although I will say I am glad that because if I'm a former slave and I came from the west coast of Africa, hurricanes come off the west coast of Africa, so I can just pretend it's like punishing whenever the hurricanes hit.
Booyah.
Yes.
Our dark magics are punishing you.
It's the spirits of dead slaves that jumped off the Middle Passage, the Northwest Passage. Excuse me. Wait, is it the Middle Passage, or West Passage?
Middle Passage, I think is what they call it.
Okay, Middle Passage. Okay. And we're destroying the South. It's the spirits of dead slaves. So.
See, well, like all the other, speaking of the Christians and those missionaries, but all those evangelical Christians who said, look at like the second September 11th, not the first one, second one, is that like, see, this is God's punishment for like the society to allow the degeneracies of days. I'm like, okay, fuck off to you.
I remember that when I was a kid, yeah.
But that sort of thing that Isaiah said is just like, you know what? Fair. I mean, it's like, hey, it's a hurricane. You get plenty of warning. Just like with volcanoes, these are forecastable for the most part. So, like, we can have a good indication of when it happens. So, just like board up your things. Just make sure you have like the kind of like small like emergency kit, like dry foods and like a radio or other things. There are preppers out there. There are fascist ones that like believe it's going to be a Mad Max world once like all society collapses because of
race war.
because of that. But then it's also like
Tim McVeigh people.
yes, exactly.
Hurricanes are predictable, people.
Mhm.
And you won't be able to see it for a little while, but I'm sharing a picture from 4 years ago when Trump drew on a hurricane forecast with a Sharpie.
Oh, that was Stormy Daniels, by the way. He was drawing a boob. That's essentially what he was doing.
Well, sorry, Daniels was not impressed with what Trump had.
His little mushroom dick.
Yeah. Is and hey, Emily Chambers,
Hey,
you walked in at a very interesting moment when Saddle said, Radical, yeah, and Radical Bacon said, I wouldn't blame the tribe if they decided to say sentinelist the missionaries. And so,
The Sentinelese Islands. They are uncontacted, and a missionary went there a little while back, in spite of the fact that the Islanders have made it clear that they will kill the shit out of anyone who comes near them.
yes,
And they killed the shit out of this guy, and everyone just sort of said, yeah, you deserve that, you fuckwit.
Good.
yeah.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, everybody.
Mhm. So, Joey, how do you feel about?
Dude, sorry to interrupt, but there was like one more thing. I used to go to church back, like, and this was like kind of like one of those like cool collegiate, quote unquote, mixed race churches. And I would hear like some of the people I talk about, would you give your life for God? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, fair.
I think anyone that gives their life for God is insane.
But he gave his life for you.
No, that was Jesus' son, and he died
They're
for
the same guy. Okay? God.
Not only
Literally.
that, I didn't need him to do that. I don't need someone to die for me. Good. I mean, no.
Yeah, that's what, again. I've told the story before about like for when my best friend went off the summer to like visit like a family in like Idaho. They're born again Christians. I think they're born again Christians, or no, they're just regular Christians. One of them preaches, and they made my best friend into a born again Christian. My biggest problem with that is that basically my best friend, autistic and ADHD, has intrusive thoughts, as we all do.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta remember,
Hi.
we all have intrusive thoughts, as it were. It's just like many of us don't act on them. Your next thought after that intrusive thought is like, why that's very weird. I don't want to do that. I don't want, like, I don't have a gun on me, and even though I'm gonna want to shoot this person. I shoot people in Fortnite. And so, which is why it's okay to have intrusive thoughts. You just don't act on them, with obviously if it causes harm to others. But my best friend was told by his uncle-in-law, that like, that's the devil tempting you. Oh yes, I really like threw a kibosh right on that, and my best friend was not allowed to play demonic games as well. But the uncle and like aunt, we had a conversation on the phone. Basically, my uncle and aunt called his uncle and aunt called my best friend, and I was right there as an atheist, a bit of the asshole new atheist kind of guy, and we had a conversation. They then sent me The Passion of the Christ.
Awesome.
Is that Mel Brooks one?
Yep.
Yes, Jesus Chainsaw Massacre.
I mean, not Mel Brooks.
Mel
no,
Gibson.
Yeah.
Gibson. I can't. I wish I knew why I suck so much with names lately. I really do.
But that was a cool mistake, though.
Oh yes, a Jesus movie by Mel Brooks, where it's like
Mel Brooks making a Jesus movie would be awesome.
Yes, it would.
Yeah. Okay, a Jesus movie by a Jewish guy. That could be interesting.
I
Get Life of Brian.
I actually never.
Ten Commandments.
I actually never watched The Passion of the Christ.
Neither have I. I wouldn't want to. It's just like 2.5 hours of 3 hours of torture porn.
But I heard a lot of people didn't like it, so.
Okay,
A lot of Christians fucking loved it.
Yeah, and then so for me, as just a movie experience. Okay, yes, I have watched gory films and violent films before. As were my one of the first animes that I knew was anime before I watched them was Ninja Scroll, for God's sakes, and like and I enjoy like Kill Bill as well. Yeah, Quentin Tarantino is a bit overrated. Agreed. But like in those kind of like movies, I'm just a voyeur to the violence, as it were, and like the good guys make out on the end, as it were, or the person, or in case of Kill Bill, the person I'm rooting for, the protagonist, makes it out in the end. And it's also cartoony and just like a comic book, so it's just like silly, it's over the top. So I don't take it as real. Now, then again, there are people who just can't handle gore and violence, and that's really understandable. Mel, I'll watch Mel versus Mel deathmatch.
Unfortunately, Mel Gibson has an actual history of violence, so
Yes, he's
he's also like an anti-Semite too, isn't he?
oh yeah,
oh yes,
racist, anti-Semite, the whole nine yards.
So back to the Passion of the Christ. So the watching the violence in the Passion of the Christ, you feel it, which is the intention, as it were. Whereas like that violence is happening to you, and it's like no, that in itself, I don't have much problem with, and I don't have much problem with like a Jesus movie, as it were, because I see it as just a story, as it were. My problem was Passion of the Christ specifically was the fucking pacing. Basically, the last the last hour of the movie was the torturing, as it were. Cut that down to 30 minutes. But not only just cut down 30 minutes, but like each scene, each of the torture scenes lasted too fucking long. Way too long. We get it already. Stop it already. No, it's just like I'm bored. And I was feeling eviscerated, so I was not enjoying myself. It's just like, okay, I guess engaging, but like I don't care. It's just like, and yet like
the only religious movies I've seen. Is Bruce Almighty a religious movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is a very mediocre religious movie. Yes.
Oh yeah, and I also saw the Left Behind movies, which I don't recommend you do.
I've not seen the Left Behind movies. I did actually see Bruce Almighty, and okay, I like that one, but yep, I agree. Yep, it's definitely a religious movie. Evan Almighty was a bit lean more heavily into the Christian audiences, which is why it kind of like didn't do too well, because they're trying to like thread that needle of like the Christian audiences with like the Noah's Ark things and be like respectful to that, and then try to do the comedy a bit as well. But they didn't go far enough in the comedy as well, because they didn't want to piss off the like Christians that they wanted to come in to like watch it too, since they released it on like Easter weekend or something like that. So it's just
You know what movie I've heard is actually a religious movie? Knowing, the Nicolas Cage movie. I heard people say that's a religious. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that.
I'm not familiar
I've
with
never
that
even
one.
heard of it.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's
2009. Earth's on Fire.
Well, if you've never seen it, I guess I would recommend you to go see it. But I don't know. I have a niche for just not shitty movies, but just movies that I don't know.
So
go ahead.
I just had an odd thought with the whole discussion of the whole scenes in Passion of the Christ and remembering things I've seen in like Easter parades going down the street that involve, people dressed up as Roman centurions with fake six packs. And yeah, a lot of like, okay, are we doing a kink scene out on Main Street?
No, you're doing a Zack Snyder masturbation scene. So yeah.
So what is it that evangelicals Christians have against kinksters again?
They're not doing it. They're not doing it missionary style.
It's not sanctioned by Jesus. That's why.
Oh yes.
If Jesus sanctioned it, then you can do all kinds of stuff.
It's because they hate the gays. That's all.
True.
Yeah. I'm just being a pain in the butt because I'm like, why?
I also, when it comes to church, I never, especially like when Easter would come, and like, and see, here's the thing with me, like I've been to like black churches, and then I've been to like more white churches, and the black churches are much more like muted when they celebrate Easter, but the white churches tend to like go all out, especially these like urban hip churches because everyone would be like dressed in like these like really bright outfits. But then I'm like, okay, it's like you don't like gay people, but then on Easter you dress in these really colorful, bright outfit. Like I don't get it. I don't. There's a lot, and I think that's why I just became an atheist because it's like I just don't want to be a part of this anymore. I don't get it. I don't like I told you about the people that said they would give their life for God. I'm like, okay, well, God doesn't need your life. He doesn't need it. So like,
Is if I were to, I think at various times when I believe this is a higher power, I always like in my mind just like see God as a scientist. We are just the mice in this maze, and like God is like wondering how we react. That in my mind at least squares away with like why God, all powerful, omniscient, and loves us all. Except for like when we break the 10 rules that like he like it doesn't like, and it will punish you into eternal damnation if you don't. The first one being that he's a jealous God, so no other deities other than him. Which is like, okay, so you're omniscient, all-powerful, but you're jealous? Well, at least you're not perfect. But like, why was he, if we are all God's children, well, first of all, if we're all God's children, what makes Jesus so special anyway? But if we're all God's children, why would God allow natural disasters to happen, as it were? Some say God works in a mysterious way, which is always
No,
a cop-out.
because original sin broke the universe. And it broke the universe so badly, God needed to use blood magic to fix it. And the only blood powerful enough was his own, so he had to give himself a body and kill it.
Yeah, I don't know. I grew up in a totally different sort of belief system. So all of the stuff that you guys are talking about, it sounds crazy from the outside. I'm telling you, like when you
it sounds
when
crazy
you don't grow up
too.
in it and you don't like really hear about it until you're like, 8, 9, 10 years old. Cause like I didn't even know like the Christ in Christmas. I did not know that Christmas had anything to do with Jesus Christ until I was like 10 years old. Like had absolutely no idea. And I saw my first
capitalism persuaded us not to think about it that way.
The Christians also like sold the pagan rituals of like a winter festival as well. I mean,
well, that's your God? No, that's our saint or a demon.
I had a pastor one time tell me that autism was a curse because the universe was broken and God made diseases and shit because it was because the first sin. So basically, my autism is because of Eve. So, and after that, I never stepped foot in church ever again because fuck God and fuck religion. Am I right? Yeah, Joey. I would just stay with you like your indigenous religion. It sounds much easier instead of all this other nonsense.
It was, it like walking away from it was kind of easy when I start thinking about like when I compare my own experiences to the experiences of other people, especially like clergy people, because like I'm a member of the Clergy Project, but I'm the only one that's like me. I'm the only one that's come from an indigenous like tribal belief system. Most everybody in there has come from one of the big major three. And so, and
okay,
most of them.
Let's be honest, Judaism isn't really a big or major religion at this point.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I can't tell the difference. It's like duck, duck, goose to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of like similarities. Yeah.
So either Jesus is the one true king, Muhammad is, or is it Abraham in Judaism? I don't know.
No, they love Moses.
Yeah,
I think in Judaism, aren't they still waiting on their guy?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Isn't there like supposed to be some Messiah guy who's supposed to be coming?
Well, no, well, Joey, that's why we gotta support Israel because they like our religious right in this country thinks like this is where the end time is gonna happen. It's gonna happen in Megiddo, or as they call it, or is it actually called Harmageddon? That's where the term Armageddon comes from.
It means the hill of Megiddo. Yeah.
right? And apparently it's going to be Jesus is going to cut into Satan. It's like, I'm going to be can I be on the side of Satan? I'm just like, fuck it.
He's cool.
I mean, any kind of like social outcast is where when they read like the X-Men comics or maybe watch the cartoons and think of like, okay, listen, I'm kind of with Magneto here, not because I believe in nationalism, because like, look at all you non-mutants that treat us mutants. Okay, if we do property damage or cause harm to others because we cannot control our powers, okay, yeah, that's one thing. But put us in the camps and do it and like just make a virus that like causes spread and blame us for it, or like put collars on it, have us as registrations. There's like, you know,
yeah, but on the other hand, a lot of mutants are ugly, so.
Come on. No body shaming here.
The problem just with that, though, is there's enough crazy people in this world who actually make it in based on a non-existent ideal. That's the scary part.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
but we're safe from Armageddon at the end of the world until the Jews manage to breed that spotless red heifer. So we have a couple of years.
Oh my God! It's like, okay, it's okay. You because you speaking fluent sarcasm, John Brockman. But yet knowing some like very strange religious beliefs, is the belief in the spotless red heifer a real thing?
I don't know. I've just read about it.
Okay, so you read about it. Okay, so it's like it was so kind of half made up on the spot. Okay, because like as Joey said, the Catholics. Okay, yes, the transubstantiation. We have already talked about this before. Yes, some people really believe that piece of wafer is the body of a dead 2,000-year-old like dude. And the wine, which was always terrible, it's his blood. Yeah.
This reminds me of something a history teacher once told me about a Christian meeting with I think it was a Hindu person in India. And the Hindu person, like, oh, I've heard about your Christianity. I think it's very strange. Don't you drink blood?
Yes.
I got something to add to that. You know, for a religion that's horribly homophobic sometimes, why are we eating a guy and drinking his blood? That's especially like men.
Once a week you get together and engage in ritual cannibalism. Yeah.
A guy who went around with 12 drinking partners, and depending on which version of the story you listen to, never married.
And he grew up thinking his mother was a virgin.
Yes.
That is some kinky ass shit, honestly. It's like we're eating his broken body and drinking his blood. It's like, okay, where do I get my BDSM gear?
And here is the mayonnaise. This represents, okay, stop there, Jesus.
Oh, and there's like imagery all over the place of him being tortured up on the walls.
Yes. It's, I mean, him on the cross. It's not the most flattering thing in him in that also like diaper too as well.
I'd be pissed if I were Jesus. Like,
yeah.
You remember me by this? At my worst moment at the time? What about me turning?
What about that thing where I was either on a mountain or near a mountain and said some really cool stuff? God.
You don't even remember the time I like cursed the fig tree for figs being out of season? What?
That was pretty cool. I withered it. I looked it up. The red heifer is a basic ritual sacrifice for anyone who has come into contact with a corpse.
We
the Temple Institute, an organization dedicated to preparing the reconstruction of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, which is necessary for Armageddon, or the end of the world, according to Christians, has been attempting to identify red heifer candidates consistent with the requirements of Numbers 19:1-22 and Mishnah Tractate Para. In recent years, the Institute had thought to have identified two candidates, one in 1997 and another in 2002. They had initially declared both kosher, but later found each to be unsuitable. They've been raising funds in order to use modern technology to produce a red heifer that is genetically based on the red Angus. In September 2018, they announced the red heifer candidate was born, saying the heifer is currently a viable candidate and will be examined to see whether it possesses the necessary qualifications for the red heifer.
Okay, wait. So they're using genetic engineering to try to create an animal as close to their interpretation of the Bible because they're trying to bring about Armageddon.
Yes.
Well, no, the Temple Institute is trying to rebuild the Third Temple. They are a Jewish organization. They don't believe in the whole apocalypse thing into the world.
Okay,
that's a
mind.
Christian thing.
But the Christians are supporting them in this because they think that the temple has to be rebuilt before the end of the world can happen. And they thus agree that the red heifer has to exist before the temple can be rebuilt.
Okay, so
I just thought with Nostradamus.
yeah. On that point of the Christian group pursuing it, wild connection, but this is just reminding me of the plot of Shin Megami Tensei 2 on the SNES.
I need
which
to
was-
replay those games.
A basic basic plot is apocalypse happened before at the end of Shin Megami Tensei 1. Get to Shin Megami Tensei 2, and you have this great big cathedral built by this faction known as the Millennium Kingdom, which is, obvious reference to Revelations. And you eventually, as you go through the story, find out that they genetically engineered their own characters, including their own character they wanted to play the part of the Return of Christ, and their own person they wanted to play the part of the Antichrist, and sent them out into the world to enact what they thought the story should be, just to bring about what the vision of, quote, the Millennium Kingdom that they wanted. And it was like several levels of creepy.
Yeah, Christians are several levels of creepy.
Let's see, something interesting. Let's see. Emily Chambers, I heard about this. Technically, virgin in biblical context, likely primary meant Mary's age and unbetrothal status. So when she fell pregnant, yeah, she was like 10 or something like that, or 13, and depending on the interpretations as were.
I don't think that there's any indication in the Bible of her age.
Okay.
All of that is just supposition based on what would have been a marriageable age for a young woman at the time, which would have been mid-teens.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. John P has an interesting comment. My dad, who is like Catholic, never did the wine and bread thing because he believes that is only for Jesus' disciples. Interesting is how your dad doesn't see himself as a Jesus disciple being Catholic. But hey, I'm not going to question it. And it's like, oh, okay. David Scott says in Norse mythology, Tavi, you can correct this or give us an input on this. The world will end when the giant wolf swallows the sun.
That is the version of mythology according to Snorri Sturluson's version, who it can also be said that the version that we have, which is Snorri Sturluson's basically compilation and translations of other manuscripts that he had access to at the time.
That's a Norse, isn't it?
Yes.
He had, if you study
He
more,
was heavily
more
influenced
into
by
him,
Christian stuff, though. So
yeah, he had an agenda of trying to gather all this stuff together to create a mythology as a way to unite people in Iceland politically, but also wanted Iceland to be Christian. So there's a lot of people who theorize about the whole Ragnarok story possibly being something that he kind of worked in. Then there's people like me that have their own personal interpretations and stuff, but that's 100% personal interpretation. So,
but it does show up in the Poetic Edda, apparently.
David Scott said
Sturluson's.
David Scott said the giant wolf is also Loki's son. By the way, I don't know if Loki did have a son though.
Loki had a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Odin's horse. Loki was its mother.
So people who just know of Loki from the MCU, okay, yes, it's cool that Loki is officially bisexual in the canon.
Gender fluid. But
isn't Loki in the actual stories? Isn't Loki more you can't even call him pansexual because he spans species?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, he gave birth to Odin's horse because he transformed himself into a mare.
Loki, mother of Sleipnir, is a trans mare, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
Yep. See, Loki just does what Loki wants, and why not? Hey. is yeah, I agree. Like Emily Jameson's point is like a version was not used as like only to like refer to like a lack of intercourse. Yeah, I do understand that. I think that's like the old use of the word virgin, just basically being not yet married as well.
Well, I think the confusion there, Emily, is that there are two very similar words. There's
Okay.
alma and apma, without the L. One means young
Mm,
woman, the other one means virgin. Um,
And yes, Mithril, that is an example of American exceptionalism. That
Christianity being the biggest
it's a
religion.
provable lie. Christians are not the biggest religion in the world anymore.
nope.
Also,
That's still
they also claim to be the oldest religion, definitely. No, Christianity is still the biggest religion at 2.3 billion.
oh, so
Islam
how
is second at 1.9.
oh, okay. That's the right cause. So like the
They're just not
Christians
the
found
majority, but they are the
right.
biggest.
Mhm.
What is the oldest religion?
The oldest
Uh,
still practiced is probably Hinduism.
oh yeah, I can say
I
that.
don't
Yeah.
know. Wouldn't there be like some of the old style practices still left in China?
Mm.
That might be arguably not a religion. An animistic belief in spirits and so on might not be considered an organized religion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's more and more considered an organized religion because I got into the clergy project.
I think you have to have formal sets of practices and things. I don't know. It's one of
I
those really fuzzy things about what is a religion. But according to World
I do
Atlas,
remember at
it's
one point taking a class and the teacher assigned us all to come up with a definition of what is and isn't a religion. And after about, I think it was a week or 2 weeks of us all working on it and debating on it, we came to the conclusion that, we lost Jonathan.
Yes, we did.
We came to the conclusion that there's just we couldn't figure out a way to actually pin down a definition that wasn't somehow exclusionary of something that maybe we didn't know at the time, like when we started working on it, and then we started doing more branching out and go, okay, what are all these different things?
What
Just
you're probably
realizing
going to
just
have better luck with would be to sort of collect a bundle of traits and say the more traits a practice has or a collection of beliefs has,
yeah.
the more religion-like it is. And
Um,
thus, there wouldn't be a firm set definition of what is and isn't a religion. Just some things definitely are, some things definitely aren't, and then there's going to be a fuzzy boundary.
It also helps to add qualifiers like organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
mhm. There is, though, one particular modern usage of the word religion, which I think can get very important to what gets called and doesn't get called religion, and that is um, political recognition
Mm-hmm.
by the powers of nation states. That if you don't have that recognition, maybe that means more discrimination and oppression. So like saying, oh, well, this is a religion. Oh, but they're not a religion, so we don't have to treat them the same way is a possibility under that definition. And yeah, kind of like the way words flow into words can be a component of colonialism, imperialism, whiteness of going in, out.
Who gets favored status?
Mm.
Yeah. So our governor here in Florida, he stated that he arrested 20 people for voting illegally, but I have my doubts. Do you want to hear what those are?
Go ahead.
I don't think because okay. So he says that Ron DeSantis says that that the people who voted were sex offenders and felons. My question is, why would sex offenders and felons vote for candidates that won't even help them anyway? What's the point?
That's the point. They want to disenfranchise people. Going back in the day, it was just entirely a moralistic thing. These people are degenerates, they're scum, they would make the world a worse place, therefore they're not allowed to vote. Nowadays, they're black. We criminalize black people so that they become felons. Therefore, they're not able to vote, and therefore Republicans are more favored to win.
Well, actually, actually, like a couple months ago, it was actually like 4 Trump supporters actually voted illegally from the village.
And they probably got a slap on the wrist.
Probably.
They did like the double
there was a
voting
woman in
thing.
North Carolina who voted on behalf of her dead mother, and the judge said, "Don't do it again." And in Texas, a black woman who had been convicted of a felony but had been released and been out of prison for years voted, not realizing she wasn't allowed to, and I think she got sent back to prison for 4 months.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just bullshit all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
So how about some
refuse
good
to.
news. My cat's cute.
Very cute.
It's kind of
Well, I
an
have some
asshole, but
good
he's cute.
news. I'm going to be constructing a 1/350 scale of the Titanic with working lights, and
Nice.
You're
I'm
already
gonna-
most of the way through it, looks like.
No, this is actually a whole nother kit, actually.
Okay.
So I'm going to be making like YouTube videos to do that. So
Nice.
I don't know. I don't know why I'm such a Titanic freak.
Big
I
boat.
don't know.
Boom, boom.
Maybe it's something. I don't know.
Special interest?
Tits.
It could be. I remember when I was like young, I saw that movie for the first time, and I just fell in love with it. I also was just into like old stuff, like vintage like stuff, like how steam engines and stuff like worked, and how like those pistons and stuff. So I don't know. I guess it's like certain things that like trigger the autism, because like I love machinery, like airplanes and stuff.
Mhm.
So maybe it's that.
No stereotypes.
It's what?
No stereotypes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember what's happened in the news recently. It doesn't help that I don't really follow the news, but
Jonathan had brought up an interesting question for discussion that I thought had a lot of
yes. Do
layers
people
to
actually want more things, or is that capitalism driving them to want things?
it. Mhm.
Column A, column B, a little of both. People want stuff. People like stuff. But if you're not trying to keep up with the Joneses, I don't think people would want as much stuff.
Mhm. Is Jonathan back? Is it Jonathan?
It's a Jonathan back.
Yay!
We just brought up that question you brought up in various places, Jonathan, about
Yes.
capitalism and stuff.
Well, okay, so this was based off of like a conversation that was happening in the SJA live chat last Friday on Steve Shive's channel. There was another very interesting. It was the conversation that happened too, but like I just wanted to like sit to one insertion that the person made that people naturally desire more, and I'm just like, really? And I think the implication there is like more than they need, because I think that on my Facebook post, I kind of like someone thought like, I'm not sure, because like people do want the stuff that they need in order to survive, obviously. But do people want more than the base necessities? I agree, luxuries, because they want the roses for like to feed the heart too as well. But do people just want more and more than that?
We've
Hey.
talked about this before, right? With the stuff I buy sometimes.
Well, you were asking if like that goes against like a socialism as a word, or a socialist principles, which I say no. But like I guess that, but the assertion is that like people naturally just want to have more and more stuff than they need.
Well, I believe under capitalism. I think most
That's right.
people know capitalism doesn't work for them. They know that they'll never be rich and stuff. I think materialism just makes it more bearable. Because it's taught to people who don't know anything about economic policies. Most people who say they don't like socialism or whatever, they don't know much about it. They're just reflecting from history of the Cold War in Cuba and Venezuela. They don't really know like the nuances about it. So they rather default to the argument of, well, under capitalism, you get to buy a phone or a computer or something, but they don't realize that the government subsidized and funded making semiconductors to put in computers. Mostly because of the moon landing and trying to get all that stuff taken care of within 10 years. This is why like I have a problem with people putting their faith in Elon Musk getting us to the moon, because I don't think Elon Musk wants to do it. I think he says it to make people like us all happy, but does he want to do it? I don't think so, because there's really nothing from going to the moon, which is mostly a scientific venture, that will interest Musk because he's not a scientist.
Unless he gets his wish about one particular thing I know he's promoted.
What is that?
To basically get people to pay to be on those trips and then be indentured to work off that debt for the benefit of his company.
Okay.
That was something he talked about I think it was more with regards to Mars.
Well, astronauts, that's not what astronauts do. That's not what they do. They don't, they're not, I mean, they're getting like, you're not going to a different place where you could possibly die to then come back and again. So yeah, but to answer your question,
any astronaut going to Mars, first they have to have sex with Sharon Stone. Then they have to remove a giant thing from inside their head. Okay? I mean, that's just how Arnold Schwarzenegger did it. Okay.
Yes, and Total Recall, yes. And then it was like Colin Farrell that did it in the remake.
Before I go, because I got to run in like a couple minutes. But yeah, that to me is why people, about stuff in capitalism. It's just because I just think people just do it because they're just ignorant. They don't know any other way. So the devil that I do know is better than the devil I don't know. So.
That's very true for like people, which is why they're going to stick to like our current version of representative democracy, like the institutions as they are now, without any radical changes and only minor tweaks.
That's kind of what I say when you like, because I know you used to promote like people having a revolution, and I don't know if you still do it, but I'm like
more uprising
that's
now.
A good thing. That's a good thing to do, but I feel like there's too many people who. Like if you liberated them and gave them the means to be liberated, they wouldn't know what to do because they've been taught all their lives that this system that they have now works for them. So when they're liberated, what are they going to do now?
There is some hope though, because like in the occurrences of like natural disasters, like in Katrina and like New Orleans, there were plenty of people that like just like they step up and to like do mutual aid out of like that's what needs to happen to help these people right now. And
those are like very few examples, few and far between. I mean, like as a whole, I think that's.
Okay, well, this goes to that question, and too, as like, do people actually really desire more stuff, or is it just like capitalism encourages that? And this is something that like I brought up on Necronomicon's like Twitch channel one time when we were playing Golf with Friends, which the Golf with Friends stream is kind of unofficially the like Necronomicon political podcast channel as well. So because it's me
try that more often.
It's me and Groundhog and like sometimes Lin Wu that's occasionally on there. So once you get like 2 or 3 anarchists into the stream, then like there's I usually bring up the political talks. And so when the inflation is happening and still happening now, and what's the Federal Reserve doing about inflation? Rising interest rates to try to discourage purchasing, and as a way to quell inflation, as it were. And I'm like, when I heard that, this is like, the Federal Reserve does not understand how capitalism works, so
there needs to be a 95% tax on all profits beyond $5 million for all landlords.
I agree with that, but also then I can ask, okay, like, and I suggest this to Necronomicon. It's like, how about on Necronomicon streams? How about just like cap on prices universally? That other places do that for like this cap prices on like oil. To which Necronomicon, who has like she's a meteorology specialist and went to grad school on that, but she took a couple of courses in college for business and in economics. And in economics class, she mentioned about the later as the oil embargo. So the oil embargo that happened like in the 70s or something like that, they did actually like
see you later, Isaiah.
later Isaiah, they actually did fix the prices, and what that caused, and the Economicon brought up an example that causes a rush to the gas station and the fuel places for people to buy up the fuel ones that set up the great cheap price and hoard them, as it were. And the Economicon disagrees with my idea of like capping the oil prices at a set price and not raising them or not have them be raised, because then people would just like they did at the beginning of the pandemic, rush for toilet paper, then hoard them. Or like actually in the South, when the oil prices went up a ridiculous high, people then fill up garbage bags, plastic bags of gasoline to store in their in the trucks of their cars and something like that. And so it's kind of like unfortunately, and I think she did acknowledge that like this is just culturally how we're trained to be. People are hoarders because they don't trust other people. And so back to the question, do people naturally want more than they necessarily need, or is it just capitalism training them to believe that they have to?
I think the answer is yeah. I think it's an answer of to what degree.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll have individuals who are just naturally minimalist. There's tons of people like that in the world. Mm-hmm. They're just naturally minimalists. They have no interest in accumulating more stuff. And in fact, they feel regularly as if they have too much stuff and they need to pare stuff down. And then you've got people who are absolute hoarders. They just feel like they have to collect stuff, and they end up with more and more and more stuff. And I think that your culture that you've grown up in will then exploit one or the other, because most cultures that we have, they're rarely in the middle. Either you're trying to collect as much stuff as you can, or you're trying to get rid of as much stuff as you can. And it just has to do with like just ancient times and what our cultures were going through, and how humans were and how we lived and blah, blah, blah. And it just translates to modern times, looking across a huge grouping of people like, say, America, which has a whole bunch of people in it and a huge variety of people in it and a huge variety of subcultures in it. You're going to see examples all the way across the board, all the way from your minimalist, a person who basically is happy with whatever they can fit in their backpack. And you've got the opposite end where people are literally buying bigger homes for their stuff, not their families, their stuff. And I think it just has to do with our culture, our particular culture, the mainstream culture. It really emphasizes stuff and buying stuff. Like it really does. Mm-hmm. Like we advertise stuff to each other. Mm-hmm. Like you can't even go online and do a little bit of research without getting advertisements for more stuff.
Mm-hmm. Why do people look up stuff and have to feel the desire to get stuff? I see you're looking up stuff. Would you like to buy some stuff for 9 easy payments of like $12.99? I'm just talking. I want to like do some research about like white people's stuff and doing stuff. Like, you were talking about buying stuff, weren't you? I was listening on your phone and microphone because I can't do that. It's just like, and. Yeah, and I do agree, Radical Bacon. In some cases, in like hoarders, as it were, it's like a psychological conditioning, as it were, a response to trauma. So that definitely is a factor. Natavi, you brought up that like neurodivergent people, autistic people, it's kind of like a special interest that like just have Pokemon. Gotta catch them all.
Mm-hmm. It is a thing. Going. My housemate has my copy of Sensory Life on the Spectrum. There's a comic in there where one of the autistic comic authors presents this whole metaphor about a autistic soup where it's like everybody has different ingredients in their soup in different amounts.
Right.
Some autistic people may have more of an urge to like collect stuff related to a particular special interest. Some autistic people may look at that and go, "Huh, I don't get that." I've done that when I started examining just the way I live over the course of my life. Like there were times like giant rock collection, bug collection, stamp collection, Magic the Gathering card collection, Star Wars card collection, Pokemon card collection.
Books.
Books galore. At one point I wasn't playing Dungeons and Dragons. I was just collecting the 3rd edition books and just looking through them and looking at the art and reading all the lore and how the system worked. I didn't have anything to play with. I just enjoyed having the books to look through at the art. So I would always just ask for them for gifts because I would just sit there and flip through them for hours. That is a thing. I think was it Jim Sterling or Laura K. Buzz? It may have been both of them actually commented on the relationship between like the gacha games and these more predatory monetization strategies.
I think both have like covered it because Jim's definitely Sterling has definitely, thank God for them, has definitely talked about like how basically also the mobile games too are trying to aggressively turn players into payers, and they're all aggressively doing that. But I think Laura K. Buzz has also done that on like her accessibility video series on YouTube, and I had talked about how like those like monetizations, like in Gotcha Again, has been predatory onto like neurodiverse and autistic people's special interests and that desire to collect them all.
It can be said that there is a thing where capitalism does seek to exploit that.
Oh yeah.
Remember there's some other thoughts I had about this whole question. Oh yeah, one of them was Joey, you were bringing this up about whether you're the minimalist like me or the hoarder. Capitalism will promote a way to exploit that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when Jonathan had asked me this question in my Discord earlier, one of the things that occurred to me is when you look at the way, so capitalism, white supremacy, and then white European Christianity and its messaging is inevitably tied in. And we now have branches off of that kind of Christianity, like the prosperity doctrine. I agree. That does the whole. But basically, is it horrible if I want to simplify it down to the go see the speech by Quark in Deep Space Nine when he's trying to tell the prophets that greed is good? I think that's.
I didn't see that one.
Basically, Quark is the ultra capitalist making his capitalism.
He's Ayn Rand with big alien ears.
Yes, and the Ferengi philosophy is and religion almost is around profits and that sort of thing.
Quark's belief is that without greed there is no motivation.
I've met people like that.
Yeah, yeah, I have met people that too, and sometimes in conversation it said they honestly do believe that like the majority of others are as selfish as they are, and and to which I even brought this up last night on last night's golf for the friend streams with Neko, when she got to redeem to like Uwu speak for 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Oh, Neko, since you have to speak in Uwu speak, I have a question for you.
And like, so okay, so you have like that end where all kinds of varieties of originally white European Christianity promotes the idea of, oh, well, if you have all this prosperity, then you must have done right by God and you must deserve it in so many different words. But I think John Brockman was bringing up earlier when we were talking about that all the it stuff with the Passion of the Christ movement and all that, the particularly the Sermon on the Mount thing. You're mentioning it as a, well, why don't they show an image of Jesus at the Sermon on the Mount instead of the whole almost naked cross thing?
Yeah.
Most churches I've ever been to, they love to laud that story and the parables, and particularly the parable of, it will be more difficult for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And then also things that are sayings are attributed to Jesus, such as, blessed be the poor, for they will, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. They laud this whole, there is that, and then within this, just other capitalist messages that go, like, aren't necessarily Christian, but you can't separate white European Christianity from colonialism, imperialism, modern white supremacy, etc. It is all woven in together. This idea of the nobility of the poor and the noble sacrifice of the poor, and oh, well, you're going to have yours in heaven, so why should you worry about having more now, as a way to say, oh, well, you should just accept your lot as an exploited person and just get in line and work harder.
I should have my sword right next to me and start sharpening it when I hear the phrases like that. Not implying anything.
That's most religions, though. I mean,
Sure.
on one hand, you can understand it because life is one of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
mean,
almost stoicism right there.
you pop out crying. You do. It hurts. It hurts to be born.
I came into the world screaming and covered in blood. I'm going to leave the same goddamn way.
I mean, that's it. You're going to have shit happen to you throughout your life. And so on one hand, you understand how religion has seen this and responds to it by helping people with coping mechanisms on how to take that and use that suffering and cope with it and deal with it and, you know, stuff like that. Like, you get it. But then on the other hand, you apply that to modern times, and there's so much suffering in the world that doesn't have to be suffering. It doesn't have to be felt. It doesn't have to be there at all. We can do something about it now. We have a totally different world and technology, and, you know, we have just so much at our fingertips that we could, you know, solve problems so that there isn't so much suffering in the world. And yet you've got religion basically sitting there telling people that it's admirable to suffer. And so you've got people who are poor, who are suffering with Bibles in their hands, instead of getting pissed off and going, it doesn't have to be this way. I don't have to be suffering. I want change, and I want it right now. Yep.
It's reminding me of a conversation I once ran into on a bus in Cincinnati. It's all strangers, so didn't know any of them. It was two black gentlemen talking, and one of them was just yeah, you should all do all this stuff for God, and the other gentleman was like, yeah, why should I do that? God never did much for me. So he goes and he looks up and he raises his hands up like, hey, God, could you give me $1? I need a dollar for the next bus.
Mm-hmm. The confused meme.
Sorry.
Yeah, but like I mean, Isaiah was asking that too. Like, why would you die for God? God doesn't do anything to you. Oh, and Joey, I absolutely loved you and totally agree. We all came out screaming as we were born because birth is painful, as it were. It reminds me of like the Poker Player Phil Locke. He found his epitaph at some time, as it were. I came into this world without my consent. I am leaving this world against my will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like and oh my god, it's just like, and the fascists or the like evangelical fascists in this country and like around the world, there are conservatives or fascists that like say, I rather work hard all day long to earn $1 than to receive $2 from the government. And is that kind of like belief that like suffering in itself, as it were, is divine, as it were. There's the Protestant like work ethic at like work in of itself its own reward, which it's no, and that's part of what leads to like bullshit jobs and this idea of like, oh, these
Welcome
lazy millennials.
capitalism.
Yes. Oh, these lazy millennials just want everything like handed out done. And this gets into the meme testing that the Democrats like to do about like who is deserving the benefits. And then that feeds into the capitalism and ableism and all that other crap. And so it's just like, oh, God. Ugh. I forgot where I was like going with that point, as it were. It turned into like a Christianity and Christians like, oh, no, yeah, your point of like how, whiteness and like your Christianity is like making it divine of like having it less, but like it's okay for like others to be like prosperous. Again, Bible being like a multiple choice of like choose your own adventure kind of like things of like your
and Joey had the good counterpoint of, but also there are similar concepts and stories in other cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the platitudes from the Sermon on the Mount that Christians like to call the Beatitudes, they're all commonly found elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Again, Christians are not as exceptional as I'd like to think. Yeah, they might be the ones that like are the most focused on like end times, because that's definitely all of Christianity. The end is nigh. The end is going to come. You got like repent now, or else like you're going to go to hell.
All of Christianity, but that is a major theme for a lot of Christians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like Joey's good friend Dan Barker, another member of the Clergy Project. He was so convinced that the end times are going to come back when he was a preacher that he didn't own a home. He and his family just rode around in their car going from church to church, where he would be a charismatic apocalyptic preacher. Their income was based largely off of donations from the churches they went to and the musicals and songs he wrote that he still gets royalties from.
Hey.
Yes. Oh, some interesting characters you find out in the creationist and the evangelical Christian like world and stuff like that. Kind of like when like we had Groundhog Quinten on, and John Brupman recognizes her New Zealand accent. John Brupman, you asked the Groundhog for apologizing for, I forgot the name of the person,
Ray
but
Comfort.
Oh yes, the Banana Man.
The Banana Man.
How the atheist nightmare. He once went on an extended thing talking about how the banana is proof of God, because it is perfectly engineered for the human hand, and it comes in a biodegradable wrapper, and it fits right in your mouth, and then he does a blowjob sort of motion with the banana.
Isn't the banana
it's made by humans,
result of human
Yes.
biological
Clones,
selection?
they don't have seeds.
Yes.
They were
Yeah.
heavily modified.
It's kind of like corn. Like
Actually, corn is
when
even
you
more
look
extreme
at
than the banana.
when you look at the wild version of what it started
Yes.
out as,
They would
it's
synthase
almost
just
unrecognizable.
Mm.
I mean, with the plantain, you can recognize it as basically a small banana full of really big seeds.
Yes.
But teosinte
It's
does
just
not
shitty
look like
eating.
modern corn.
Yeah. Again, it's like, okay, it's okay. Maybe it's a fascinating history of like a history of agriculture and how we get to like the corn that we have now, that we now recognize the corn as opposed to like what's how it's grown in the wild. I know that like carrots in wild is like smaller and kind of purple, as it were, and we genetically modify it by selective farming and selective breeding into like the yellow orange corn and orange carrots that we know now. but like it's kind of like the potato. How did someone think you eat this? Something was grown in the ground and like is somehow not a rock?
Well,
I know the
mean,
first person who experiments with a new food has got to be the bravest soul on the planet, I swear.
especially when you consider that the leaves of the potato plant are related to nightshade and are deadly poison.
Yep. I get, or again, as I said this before, the good answer is medicinal. As we're okay, that makes sense. How do we thought of like tea? You take this leaf, you do not eat it. It's poisonous to you. The rest of the plant is poisonous to you. You can't eat it, or else you feel very sick. But take this leaf, boil it in water, and take that hot leaf juice and drink it. That's yum.
More to the point, how do people in China and I believe it was both China and India think of tea? Because we know how the British got it. They didn't invent tea.
No.
They just
They
came up with
perfected
they
it,
just went and they looted it and came up with a shittier version of it.
How about the first person who decided they were going to try Kopi Luwak?
No idea
What's
what that is.
that?
That's that cat shit coffee.
Oh, the civet coffee, yes.
Oh, that's right. The coffee beans that have been digested by like a koala bear or
No, it's a
something.
A civet.
Civet.
A cat, yeah.
It's not
and
actually a cat, it's a primate, but
Okay,
or a
so but
pre-primate, but
so the animal eats the coffee beans and ingests the coffee beans. The coffee beans get passed through the animal, and those coffee beans then get used to make coffee. It's like the most expensive kind of coffee you can get because
Yes.
of that whole process. Rich people drink it because it's the most expensive coffee you can get.
Well, supposedly
It's
it
really
brings
gas.
out the flavor and the caffeine in it and makes it a superior sort of roast.
yeah, people also like to eat durian and maggot cheese. So just people are stupid. Okay.
Okay, but in fairness to the weirdness of humans here, you know what anything made with yeast is.
Yep, but
It's
it's
rotten.
it's a farts.
Yep, beer is full of yeast fart.
Yep, it is the it's a living thing that takes in stuff and then it expels other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yet
And
when
then
I was
we eat it.
and yet when I
And
was
we're
drinking-
like, yum.
And yet, when I was at the bar drinking water because I just got there, I know I was like thirsty and didn't eat anything either yet. My coworker said, "You know that the fish pee and poop in that water, right?" So you're drinking. I should have responded like, "So you're drinking yeast farts." I think he was doing whiskey though. So yeah. So
And
like
your food is all grown using shit. Who gives a shit?
Yes, exactly.
Or it should be grown using shit. Instead, it's grown using artificial fertilizer. We should be supplementing artificial fertilizer on top of composted shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, but and also come on. Okay, in the middle of Minnesota, should not be able to. If I could be correct on this, but like it should not be able to grow avocados essentially, or like cherries that are like genetically modified to taste like cotton candy. And the fact that like I can buy those in the middle of winter in January at Minnesota shows you how much drenched in blood the like model of the grocery store is on their capitalism. So much imperialism, etc., colonialism, and like terrible things is happening in order to like make that grocery store where I can buy avocado year round.
Now, I wouldn't mind if food is free. If food is free and we're growing it everywhere, and this is the other stipulation that I have, is that we start bringing our growth processes into our cities
Yes.
and use our vertical acreage.
Yes.
Yep.
Is I mean,
I don't know about free. It would still have to. If we made it free, it would have to be rationed because people are weird about free shit.
like I mentioned, and what Necronomicon said about like my idea of reducing prices on like oil is where people start like going out and hoarding them, and like but like Joe McClure did have like I think like a better point is just like don't cap on prices, but cap on the profit margins of the oil companies because like they can't raise the prices for like make more profits because they have a cap on it anyway.
We need to put a cap on that and the cap on income. I mean, there needs to be a maximum.
Well,
Agreed.
not just a cap on income. It has to be a cap on wealth.
Yes, because we got to include capital gains and that sort of thing as well.
Because if you put a cap on income, all they do is stop taking income and make up wealth in other ways. And
Yeah.
Capital gains is like real
It's true.
estate.
it's just,
And the fact that like
Just have to put a cap on all of it, all the way across the board. Every loophole that
how
they
about we
find
eliminate
to
private property?
explore.
oh yeah, I like the elimination of private property too. So like one person cannot just have like 8 homes and then house flipping. Flipping people
Or how about the companies that they're not? It's not even one person has 8 home. It's it's a company that owns like 100 homes.
Yeah,
like Blackstone and Berkshire Hathaway and whatever the Koch brothers are doing. Yeah,
and they will keep some of them intentionally vacant to create more scarcity.
Yep.
Hence why we have more empty homes than people without.
As 2008, like the when like a lot of like empty homes just went vacant because of the subprime mortgage bubble. Like get 10 seasons growing up, most of us did not see the dichotomy of that there. Some of us did.
You said people with 8 homes. I'm like Dr. Oz.
But could you buy like multiple mobile homes and then put hallways between them?
Problem with mobile
homes,
I
have seen people do that. Yes, you can.
Okay.
The problem with mobile homes, though, you probably might own the home or mortgage on it, but you probably do not own the land, and that can get you. Hey, Phoenix, have not been forgetting to like share the links. The Phoenix's GoFundMe is down in the description as well, and like Joanna Roberts like PayPal links is also there in the description as well as like sharedailies.page. But like any extra money that you have, instead of like hoarding it like we were talking about, like of like some people's natural tendencies, as it were. No, give it to Phoenix instead, or give it to Joanna instead, as it were. And don't be a dragon, don't be a hoarder. Be like just like give to people. You're thinking of like Twitch, Taffy, of like the command charity.
Yeah, it would be convenient.
One could have Nightbot on YouTube. So
some people do have Nightbot on their YouTube channels. I know this because they poorly implement it to get rid of campsite spam bots.
We haven't had like a spam bots like in a while.
These are in radio channels usually. They're on 24/7.
Before we go into charity spam, I want to share 2 bits of good news I saw on the BBC just now. First up, Singapore is ending their ban on gay sex. The Prime Minister announced it. It's a win for humanity, blah, blah, blah. And so 377A, which bans sex between men, is going to be repealed. The other bit of good news is that Demi Lovato is back, and she's releasing a metal album.
Ooh. Don't know who Demi Lovato is.
She was a Disney pop star.
Ah!
Yes.
Still don't know who that is.
Her 8th album is called Holy Fuck, but fuck is spelled with a V instead of a U. And the article describes it as a sonic assault of razor blade guitars and throat-scorching vocals that strip away the radio-friendly veneer of her earlier material. So she's cut her hair short, and she's covered in tattoos.
Right on.
Basically, she's turned into a lesbian pansexual icon.
Nice.
Again, with like I don't follow up any like the Disney stars or child stars. So when they like were on as like a Disney pop stars and then like grew up, but like of the ones I heard about that like were on Disney first and then grew up later on, there's like they always often like try to break an image that they hold on before, as it were, or maybe it's just like they kind of like that's how they naturally are, and they had to like be Disney-fied in order to like do sort of things, as it were. The image that Disney has to protect.
I'm almost tempted to phrase something about Disney in a very terrible way, given that Disney has given money to politicians that promote policies that hurt queer people.
Yeah.
Rainbow capitalism.
In terms of how Disney, not just Disney, but oftentimes child stars within media get treated.
Mm-hmm.
But they're definitely like the Disney pop stars that there is when you see this whole transformation of I don't want to be that persona that they were basically pushed into from a young age for the purpose of making a lot of money for somebody else, namely the CEOs at Disney.
Yep.
I mean, this is the same sort of shit that's been going on for more than a century. They did the same shit to, not Julie Andrews.
Sure, Temples.
No, I'm thinking the chick who played Dorothy on The Wizard of Oz.
Oh
I mean, they
yeah.
forced a whole lot of shit onto her. I mean, literally drugs. I mean, just sort of destroyed her. Like when she appeared later in life, she was just terrible. Her body was just ruined. She couldn't sing anymore.
Without making my language too horrible and accusatory, one of the key horrible things that queer people like right now, hi, trans girl on stream, we get accused a lot of
Judy Garland.
pushing young children to be trans to suit our own agenda, and that's not a thing.
No.
It just doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. And I'm just kind of pointing out that, hey, Disney, who has, done things like given money to, I think they gave money to Ron DeSantis.
They have.
To
And like
pull
Greg
the whole
Abbott.
don't say gay bill shit.
Mhm.
Disney's got some fucking history of pushing, like taking children and with their parents' consent, but not necessarily as, I mean, the child is a child.
Mhm.
Pushing them into a particular role, working them long hours, and basically doing everything they can to shape that child's entire personality and image to suit their market brand. I'm not saying it's necessarily exactly the same thing.
Mhm.
I'm just saying I'm a little upset about it.
Almost like I wanted to do a bit of research too on like Japanese pop idols or like Korean pop idols too, because that's a similar thing too.
South Korea's capitalist bullshit with those pop idols is awful.
Yep.
It's just hideously abusive.
Oh yeah, slave contracts. They even have like the actual contracts so terrible for the artists as slave contracts, and some of them
They have them in like 1,000-calorie a day diets and shit, and just collapsing.
Yes. And all that things like regimen, and some of them can like start as like young as like 11 or so, which is why when some of them do sing for an audition and for that sort of thing, the only songs they know is like nursery rhymes, and that's what they sing, and it's like, but like there's South Korea has this like capitalist problems as well as like Brunel, so there's that kind of desperation of trying to get out of poverty, and so I'm not saying I excuse like I more blame the system that's forcing people and forcing people to like sign these terrible contracts, and especially signing them when they're kids or they have the parents sign them, and it's just like there's still like a lot of problems there, that sort of thing, and Phoenix, I have no I have no problem with seeing like every Disney character is like pansexual until proven otherwise. This is a character that's like been confirmed at least by the writer being pansexual, and no controversium. Hey,
I could totally believe that.
Yes. Disney with his rainbow capitalism, and yet the first openly gay man, the fool in the Beauty and Beast live action movie, and all we got was just like one look.
It wasn't even an actual gay thing. It was just him being surprised at finding himself dancing with a man.
Yeah.
The first actual gay thing in Disney, I think, was in the Star Wars Episode 9, where there was a lesbian kiss that got cut out.
That's right.
But now we have an actual lesbian couple in the new Buzz Lightyear movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Which had the anti-woke losing their shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Tavi, you want to say something?
Also published by Disney, but Disney has kind of made it hard for the show to continue, and I guess it's just going to get truncated down into like a mini series to round it off or something. We've been left on a cliffhanger. Owl House has a building relationship over the course of the show between two teenage girls. It even includes at one point there is a point where one of the girls is approaching basically the character who's acting as her mother figure, and it's like, hey, this other character's like trying to set me up with this girl, and the adult in the room's like, oh wow, that's a lot. Is that what you want? And just straight up gives the child agency. What do you want? Mm-hmm. And then it goes on to a whole thing. There is hugging. There's a lot of blushing. There is hand holding. There is an actual kiss. But it's like it actually takes the time to build the relationship over I think we have 3 seasons. And it is rather adorable. And it is very gay.
Nice.
And of course, now they've destroyed the show.
Yeah.
And no
also,
problem.
the main character is Latina and does occasionally just toss Spanish phrases into the show.
Oh, nice.
They're trying to turn our kids Mexican too? God damn.
It's okay to learn Spanish. It's not that hard, from what I heard.
Yo lo sé.
And it's okay, Metro. It's okay to be like half awake. That's most of us here, honestly.
Yeah, James Somerton did a really good video on Disney and its queer baiting and queer coding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think console is free. Console the Geek said like years ago has done a good video on like LGBTQIA plus bait, as it were. It's just like Lando Calrissian. Okay, you can tell us that he's pansexual, but it's different if like I see Lando Calrissian kiss L3, kiss Han Solo, and then kiss Chewie. That's what I want to see, but that's why we have fanfic. Phoenix, you can go on and do your thing and spread it in fanfic around the world. And I think,
and of course, everyone knows that Elsa and Anna were totally in a gay incest relationship.
They have the exact same face. You
mean the tiny little girl face that all women have in cartoons?
There's a lot of unpacking about that trope, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. There is. There's anime that does that a lot too. There are some anime shows where like all the girls have the same face. Some anime, all the girls have the same body type. It happens to be like a hentai I was watching, so it's like Barbie girls with big breasts, of course.
And in about 20 or 30 seconds, you'll be able to see the picture I just added to the stream in the lower right-hand corner. It's a tweet that says, Studios, okay, it's absolutely imperative that the audience knows which one is a girl wolf and which one is a boy wolf. Studios, every single time. Okay, wait, I got it. And then it has a picture of 2 wolves that has been edited by someone. And it might... I take it is now visible on the stream. Yes, okay.
I'm actually not looking at the actual stream. I should.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember this meme.
Is gender coding, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Pac-Man just to give me Pac-Man, but Miss Pac-Man had to have the bow and the lipstick and the beauty mark, as it were. But also in this case, it's
and from now on, I'm going to call him He-Hulk.
And I believe Ms. Pac-Man was like a result of, I think it was like Namco not coming up with a new Pac-Man quickly enough for the US arcade companies, so they had to come up with a way to alter the game and alter the art on the cabinet to be like, hey, look, it's a new game, to get people to pump quarters into it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it honestly was just a patch in the original
But
game.
you know why everyone loves Ms. Pac-Man.
I don't know.
She has a bow.
She swallows.
What?
She swallows.
Oh, for it is kind of my ex-wife's like favorite arcade game, but I think in part it was like, oh hey, there's an actual girl of this, but that's like going back to like 70s arcades,
80s. My
70s, 80s.
Yeah,
80s.
yeah, my mom, every time that like me, my siblings were in her belly, she thinks that like it's because like when I was in her belly, her playing Cubert, as it were, it was got my interest in the video games. For my older sibling, it was Pac-Man. For my oldest brother, it was Space Invaders, and for my youngest brother, it was Gauntlet. That's why we got the Nintendo Entertainment System, so that she.
Okay. Now I have to ask: did you learn how to swear from your mother playing Cubert?
No. Oh yeah. Is Apple screwdriver nuts squiggly mark.
Would anybody even know? How many people would these days would still know what I was saying if I called something Cubert cursing?
They might know Simish as it were, Sim speech as it were, but even some of the Zoomers probably don't either. We're going to name someone that like both have it. I know Decia would have absolutely no idea what's Qbert swear as it were, and Phoenix vaguely remembers like the NS as it were. Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man is gender fluid. I can see that. But anyway, we've like gone over our 90-minute mark, so like we got like end the show. Tavi would like to like as always like plug the Indigenous Anarchist Federation, as well as Black Socialists in America. Look up those two like organizations that are websites and like their Twitters. Awesome, great resources. Like, check them out, as well as like Whiteys. Listen to other listen to like not Whiteys for once. That's cool with me. And Joey Fire Lame Deer has a Patreon. I'm quickly trying to like find that and put it into the live chat, even though like Joey has not done anything to that. But this is a way to give Joey money. Why not?
Which I could actually use.
No,
because I may not be a capitalist, but we live in a capitalist society.
Absolutely. Why do like I get to like hear? So I got okay. I'll eventually find like a Joey's like a Patreon and like I plugged in. There's my feed. That's what I needed. Okay, and I'm Summer and Geek on Twitch, Summer and Geek on Twitter, Summer and Geek on like YouTube. I don't know when I'm gonna like stream on like Twitch soon. Thankfully my like webcam actually hold out this entire time, which is like odd.
Your internet didn't, but yeah.
My internet doesn't. It usually doesn't. Okay, there we go. Fun. Fun.
One other thing I was going to plug, because you brought up earlier the topic about food growth and abuses under capitalism.
Right.
A group called United Farm Workers. If they do like all kinds of union stuff. They do a lot of stuff about abuses of immigrants. A lot of stuff about immigration rights. I have seen them on their channel, and this was like, or on their Twitter, and this was probably like a couple of years ago, actually talk about the abuse of child labor within U.S. food growth. And so, yeah, if that's a topic that interests you, check them out. Check out their website. Check out their Twitter. At one point they did like a Twitter thing on where does your food come from and what do we have to do to actually do it to actually show like this is the actual labor that goes into it. So you want to learn about that? That's a good place to go. What's done?
And John Brockman, you're part of another podcast, aren't you?
Yes, Dungeons and Debacles. We're a D&D podcast saving the world from an evil red dragon cult. In real life, we're saving the world from an evil red dragon cult. In the game, we're just having fun.
And so the main plot and narrative is like you ending an evil red dragon cult. In practice, you're just like bumping around, having a lot of fun.
Yes. All right, and with that, I guess we get to say goodbye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, comrade.